The movie Looper has been out for a while, and it's been, really popular, and a lot of people, have been talking about that. So we're going to talk about Brick.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes. And same director, Rian Johnson. This is the movie that kind of made him a big deal. It was an independent film, like really, really sparse budget, and it doesn't show because the film, the quality is amazing. Like it is one of my favorite films. It is a detective film. It's set in a modern day high school though, so it's kind of a different take on film noir, but it still retains the feel of that, which is amazing.
So take a film noir, old school detective movie in the 30s,
40s,
probably
yeah.
30s, 40s, probably black and white,
Mm-hmm.
and write a script set in 2005, based on high school students. Take high school drama, add detective agency, well not agencies, but take the detective feel.
And all of the character archetypes that you see in an old film noir film, they're all in here, but they're high school counterparts. So instead of him talking to the chief of police, he's talking to the vice principal and things like that. And which it sounds comedic, but it works really well for this movie. It's a really serious tone, but
Really serious.
it doesn't ever drag. And the performance that Joseph Gordon-Levitt gives is so outstanding. Like I can't even praise it enough because it is just beautiful.
It really is. It's one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I love movies. Obviously, I'm into film. Obviously, Johnny's into film. It's how you guys know us. But when Johnny showed me this movie, I didn't expect to like it. I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw what it was, film noir set in 2005 in a high school.
It does sound like a combination that shouldn't work.
And then he told me that it was a low-budget film.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so first thing that I thought was he wasn't showing me a movie that was released in theaters with decent, if not fantastic, actors. Honestly, the first thing that went through my head was it was set in 2005 and in a high school setting because it was a high school film project.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that went through my
right,
head.
and I can understand how it would sound like that. But, then you throw in Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is the only, big star in it, although Nora Zehetner's in it, and she's, some people might remember her from Everwood. I do anyway. Yeah. She's super cute and not really all that famous, but interestingly enough, she actually looks quite a bit like Rachel Bilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cousin. And
Because only you would know that.
And what's funny is Rachel Bilson actually tried out for the part that Nora got on Everwood.
Do I think she should have got it? Yes.
Anyway.
So, when I think about this movie and I think low budget, now, when you told me Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in it, the reason I thought they got Joseph Gordon-Levitt was because it was a low budget film that they spent entirely on Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Mm.
Watching the movie and then watching the commentary with you,
Yeah.
I'm still thinking to this day that they spent their budget on Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
But at the time, he wasn't a huge thing still. He was still, a lot of people knew him from Third Rock from the Sun, basically. And he had done some other movies before this, but this was the first one that really caught my attention. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And yeah, everyone remembers him as, the kid that looked like a girl. Oh. But, yeah.
And then you see him playing Brendan, the main character of this movie, and is that the kid from...
Yeah.
When did she grow up?
Total transformation. And he really, ate up this character. He really got into it. He had, the posture that he did and everything was very... he internalized a lot of stuff in this movie. And despite it being a really internal character, he actually gets across so much subtlety with his, movements and dialogue and everything about his character. So, yeah.
So, we're not going to give you a scene by scene because it is a film noir and 90% of the plot is the twists and turns. So we're still going to give you a review. We're going to try to keep it short.
And spoiler free, pretty much.
We're going to do our best.
In fact, I would actually suggest, if you haven't seen this movie, don't watch the trailer. Because the trailer it's kind of obnoxious. The things that it shows in there, it gives you clues that you don't actually need in a trailer, and you still can't make sense of it. But the trailer was terrible. So I would say, really, just go buy the film. Just buy it. Don't even rent it, because you're gonna love this movie. Buy it.
Watch the movie, then watch the trailer. The trailer looks terrible.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't even think of a nice word. The trailer looks like shit. It gives too much of the film away. Just watch the movie.
And yeah, honestly, with as complex as the plot is, there'd be no way for us to really cover it in any kind of reasonable amount of time. So we're going to talk about basically like the feel of the film. One of the things
let's start with the box, since that's what everyone's going to see
right.
first. So you've got an arm in water, and then 4 of the main characters, which are really the only characters with any character development, kinda, on the cover.
except Dode's not on there. Yeah.
True, Dode.
No, he's on the back, but
Yeah, he makes it on.
He's a fantastic character too. He's kind of this punker dude, and I don't remember ever seeing him in anything else, but he's really good.
He was.
Yeah.
So you've got the arm, the name, Brick, a detective movie by Rian Johnson, and then
Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't see. Rian Johnson.
Yeah.
And then you look at the cover and you're just a detective movie. This looks like a bunch of high school kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all you see is, the dead body sitting there, presumably dead, and she's dead. It's in the first scene, so that's not a spoiler. But there's a lot of strange style choices in this movie that sound like they wouldn't work at all. Like a lot of the soundtrack actually sounds like it's from an old Western.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't sound like a film noir. It sounds like an old John Wayne movie.
Yeah, and that was another thing they talked about on the commentary, was that he wanted a really unique sounding soundtrack, and the guy that did the music I believe it's Rian Johnson's cousin. Anyway, he did a lot of stuff where he was just using ambient noises and repeating them and stuff, making these tracks that are just, they really help you get in the feel of the movie. Without a good soundtrack, this movie probably would have just been kind of good, but it actually turns out being fantastic.
It was his cousin, Nathan Johnson.
Yes, Nathan. Yeah.
Okay, so because it's obviously not a spoiler because it's literally the first scene in the movie.
Yeah, dead girl.
You have a dead girl laying in water in front of an underpass tunnel water canal thing, and then your main character Brendan is just kind of sitting there staring, thinking, doing some kind of what looks like might be plotting, might be scared, you don't know.
Yeah.
And then it just
he does a lot with a blank face.
Yeah.
It's funny because you're brought into this scene and you're like, what the hell, did he kill her? Or did he just find the body? What is the connection? And they actually cover a lot of that really quickly with some flashbacks right after that.
Yeah.
And you kind of figure out that basically the whole plot of the movie is him trying to solve this murder and figure out who was behind it. So
basic premise, boy, girl, they split, they go to different cliques, kinda. He doesn't, she does, bad things happen, she ends up dead. He finds the body, he makes it his mission in life to figure out who killed her and why they killed her. That's his only purpose for any of this.
Yeah. One of the great things about this film is that the feel of it is everything that's happening in it is so intense and so important. There's very little comedy in it, and they don't have much room for it. When it's there, it's well placed though.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they talked about on the commentary was the fact that it's not a movie that feels like what high school actually was. It's a movie that feels like high school felt when you were there.
Yeah.
Where everything you're dealing with is so important and life changing and all that. And I think that's why
they just made that literal.
Yeah, I think that's why it actually clicks with people, is because everybody went to high school, everybody had a shitty time in high school, no matter what they say. And so you always feel like the outsider, and
even if you're not.
Yeah. In some way everyone is an outsider, or at least feels that way, especially in high school. Holy crap.
And there's a character in there that they make a good point of that, the Brad Brandish, the football player.
Yeah.
He's the guy, he's the go-to guy, he's the popular kid, and all of these stories he tells is about how he's not.
Yeah, exactly. And his insecurities are just flying out of his face the whole time. It's great. Yeah. So, another thing that they use a lot in the film is like these really weird, shocking transitions from one scene to another, where it's like, it's a slow, intense scene, and you're like looking, you're like, what's going on? What's going on? What the? All of a sudden it's, blah, it's a different scene, and again, well placed.
And the soundtrack makes that beautiful.
Right, exactly.
The scoring is just amazing.
Yeah. They paid a lot of attention to like the characters, like their footwear, their shoes and boots.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Joseph Gordon-Levitt's shoes that he wore? Like his shoes? It's a weird thing with this movie. The shoes will tell you everything you need to know about the character, and that's why every character is introduced in one way or another with at least one scene starting with their shoes.
Yeah, it's like the first thing you see of Brendan's character, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, Brendan, and he's wearing blue jeans and dress shoes. But they're like these old, fucked up dress shoes that like are literally falling apart. Like if you pay close attention, like about the fifth time I watched it.
40s.
Yeah, about the fifth time I watched it, I was really looking at the shoes because I'd already watched the commentary and they talked about that in there. And there are some scenes where like the sole of his shoe is like coming off and stuff. I'm just dying laughing. They were talking about the problems having to glue it and everything.
Yeah, there's fucking holes.
Yeah.
Just completely coming apart. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then like the pin.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
One dress shoe, one
giant boot thing, and they were trying to imply that he had some sort of a handicap. Guy walked with a cane and everything, and he's the crime boss that you would have seen in an old detective movie.
And that leads us into maybe one of the only 4 funny bits of the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the characters' brain, basically Brendan's information source.
And that guy was, he was the older, not older, but he was like the older brother of little blonde chick in Spy Kids 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the kind of douchebag. Yeah.
The guy that pulls out the super watch.
Yeah, and the shades that say bad boy. I'm like, come on, Robert.
Really?
What are you doing?
Really?
But
anyway, but on the note of the pin, one of the other comedy bits, again, not a spoiler because it's really quick, you find out. Older guy. He's like 26.
Yeah.
It reminds you that you're in high school. All of these kids are like 16 to 18 at most.
Right, because the way they're talking does not sound like high school kids.
No.
And it was a deliberate decision on the filmmaker's part. They wanted to have it feel where, like, this was another world that you're just kind of dropped into. And so the dialogue is sometimes it would almost seem confusing, except for they double back on a lot of it in order to. You're like, oh, okay, they referred to that earlier, and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And then he says it again, and I was like, okay. Yeah, like they use terms like, like they call the cops bulls and stuff like that. And they, like, after they say the bulls are blah, 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 then they say something else that kind of explains it, which is nice because, like, yeah. It's really difficult to write dialogue that's supposed to be confusing and still make it understandable. But they really...
Without blatantly explaining it later.
Yeah. There's no like big long stupid expositions in the movie. It's just really brilliant dialogue, and you're able to follow it pretty easily. A lot of the characters lie all the time.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
And so you've got this whole situation where you're in this movie and you're trying to figure stuff out, but you're not really sure if this guy's being honest about what he's doing. But on the other hand, a lot of the times, even the characters that are lying, like while they're lying, they kind of tell you what they're really about.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely a thinker. It's one of those movies you don't want to like have a couple of beers and watch this because no, you won't get it. But yeah, sit down,
maybe
quiet
the second
room.
or third time.
Yeah. Watch it in a quiet room with people that aren't gonna just Mystery Science Theater the hell out of it. So.
Don't watch it with anybody from TFO if you're in Sacramento. TFO, don't play this movie. It's not a horror. It doesn't belong at your fucking... No. Yeah. It doesn't belong with you people.
Yep. Back to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. He's great because he actually, most of the time, doesn't mix words. He doesn't... he says what he means, and he will be very, like, I don't want to say soft-spoken, but he's very direct and very just to the point. He just says something, bam, and it's just this little bit of dialogue.
Almost kind of dickish, like.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah, you still like the guy, but
he's so pissed off with life,
mm-hmm.
and it just comes out in his dialogue.
Yeah.
And he just talk, And
Yeah.
oh my god, that character talks so quick for being such a soft-spoken motherfucker.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what I mean though, is that a lot of his dialogue is just, short little like comments here and there. But when he does go into a spiel, like he gets into it and you're like, oh my god, I fucking love this character.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's portrayed kind of like the classic, film noir detective where he's tough, but he still gets his ass kicked all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not invincible, and so he's still a believable character, even though he does some pretty outrageous things in the movie. You're like, how the hell did that happen?
And with the exception of the one scene where he's waking up, it seems like he's awake for this whole thing, just constantly getting more and more bloody, and by the end of the movie, you're just, how are you alive?
Yeah, because his character, like, he seems a little bit out of it, for the whole movie, and, like, he just gets worse and worse, and you're like, what is wrong? Is he gonna die?
Does this kid have cancer?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to explain the scene, but he falls out of a car.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a moving car, but he goes to get out of the car, and he just falls on the concrete.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there.
And what's funny about that is that his like whatever health problems he's having, they don't even address it in the film. Nobody even points. Some of the characters point it out, but they don't explain what the hell's going on.
No,
if
they
he's
never
got the flu, or if he actually has tuberculosis. I don't know what the hell it is. But
and wasn't he the one of the only actors that didn't get sick?
Yeah, they actually had a flu bug going around on the set when they were filming, and literally every person on the set got it except for Joseph Gordon-Levitt, because he's superhuman, I guess.
Apparently. Towards the end of the movie, Dode's character has a monologue.
Oh my god!
Again, fucking beautiful, beautiful monologue. Without spoiling it, because it is a key plot point.
Yeah.
It's basically a complete revelation of what's going on from that character's perspective, without ever really seeing him for more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's great because like before he does this big old it's not really a monologue. It's not really an exposition. It's a dialogue, but it's mostly him talking and Brendan just standing there going.
It's a reactionary monologue.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So,
but
before that though, there's not much that you get from this character. You just, he's like, oh, this guy's kind of cool, kind of a dirtbag maybe.
You pick up, and you either like him or you hate him. You think he's doing shit for the right reasons.
Yeah.
He's doing shit because he thinks he's a good guy, or you're with Brendan and.
But he's definitely a bad guy. I mean, he's not a bad guy, a bad boy.
Okay.
But he's your feelings about the character end up flip-flopping quite a bit through the movie, and he's not the only one. There's a lot of the characters where you first meet and you're like, oh, okay, one's all right. Wait, no, I actually hate you. Yeah, so.
But what was it? The flu.
Yes, Dode's monologue.
Dode's monologue. He does not remember filming it to this day.
Yeah, he was so sick that like they wanted to take him to the hospital, and he's like, oh, I'll just get through this scene. Yeah, and
after knowing that, it shows up. You can see he's
actually
that fucked up.
This guy is about to die too.
But then but if you watch it without that information, which anybody watching this now, you don't have that luxury. He looks like the meth head his character is supposed to be.
Yeah.
He looks like a straight gutter punk.
Yeah, and it's so intense. You're like That's the moment when you actually get really drawn into his character, and you're like, okay, now I kind of get him.
I can get behind this.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of the dialogue is funny because it has double meanings. Like like I was saying with some of the characters, when they are lying, they're also kind of telling you something about themselves. You'll catch, especially upon like the second or third viewing, you'll catch things that people said, and you're like, wait a minute, they were talking about this, not that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I know it sounds a lot like a really confusing movie, but
Sorry about that.
Yeah. It's actually really, really. I don't want to say easy to follow, but by the end of the movie, you do know what's going on.
Yeah,
and
by the end
it does explain itself pretty well. So don't be hesitant to watch this movie because it's awesome.
So, out of 10?
Oh, out of 10, I would say that this is actually a 10. This.
Yeah.
I can't think of another movie that I've watched this many times offhand right now. Except, like maybe Predator or something like that. But that, Totally different. That's apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brick I actually watched for the dialogue and for the amazing visuals and for the fantastic performances by a mostly unknown cast. So
I'm gonna give it a 9. A comfortable, cool, very, very even 9.
alright.
Only because of the budget.
Oh, you think it would have been better with a big budget?
I think
bigger budget.
I think they could have done better because there are probably scenes that they wanted to shoot that they just couldn't.
I don't know about that. Well, I mean, yes, of course there was probably some stuff that they just couldn't do because they ran out of time or ran out of money or whatever. But a lot of the times I think that ends up helping a production. Like the adversities that they face and like how they creatively get around those tends to make for a more interesting film sometimes. You know, the easiest example is Jaws. I mean, they were talking about how, you know, they were having all these problems with the mechanical shark not working and stuff, so you didn't see it that much in the movie. But when it pops up, you're like, holy shit. So, yeah. It's probably a better film than what Spielberg thought he was going to make.
True.
And yeah, I think this one might also fall into that category. I don't think a bigger budget would have helped. But, who knows? This is all speculation.
So from The Fountain, Useless Knowledge, Brick, 2005, Rian Johnson with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
And Nora Zehetner.
And Nora Zehetner.
Yes. Okay.
Gets a 9.5. We'll see you guys next week.